Hello my dear brothers and sisters from the United Kingdom. If you're between the ages of 30 and 45, this video will hit you differently. You may not have lived in Victorian times, but you heard the stories from your nan, from your granddad, from those old dusty books on the shelf. Today, I'm going to take you down a road that many have forgotten. A road filled with soot and gas lamps and strange little street jobs that once kept the heart of old England beating. So if you're someone who still remembers the smell of coal smoke and winter air, the sound of an old kettle boiling in your grandma's kitchen, or the stories of London's foggy streets, then stay with me, because what you're about to hear might just bring a tear to your eye. Let's explore 10 unbelievable street jobs from the Victorian era, real jobs now lost in time. 1. Mudlarks. When you think of Victorian children, you often picture chimney sweeps high up in the sky, or tiny workers toiling in factories. But there was another kind of child worker, the mudlarks. These were children, mostly poor and sometimes homeless, who made their home along the filthy riverbanks of the Thames. Their days were spent searching the sludge and grime for anything they could sell. They looked for coal, old metal, even bones. Anything they found was washed, sorted and sold in the bustling markets of London. It was hard, cold, wet, and the children were covered in sludge from head to toe. But each dirty find meant a little hope for food, a little extra money to help their family survive another day. Many people turned a blind eye to these kids, but some kind souls offered them work, like sorting their laundry or cleaning their shoes. And if they were lucky, they might be given some coins and maybe even a hot meal to knock around. Imagine waking up every morning to the sound of someone knocking on your window. Now imagine that person is your alarm clock. Well, that wasn't so far-fetched during the Victorian era. Before alarm clocks chiming loudly on bedside tables, people hired someone to wake them up for work. This job fell to the knocker-uppers, usually a young boy who would carry a long stick. He would then tap it against the window pane, creating a gentle yet insistent sound. Tap, tap, tap. Slowly but surely, the sleepy face of the homeowner would appear. The knocker-upper would wait patiently until the person got dressed. Then he'd move on to his next appointment, ensuring the whole city woke up on time. It might sound simple, but it was important. Being on time was crucial, especially when the lives of others depended on it. 3. Link boys. Picture this. It's nighttime in Victorian London and you're strolling through dimly lit streets. Suddenly you notice a small figure ahead of you. He carries a flickering torch, illuminating the way. In the darkness you realize this boy is your torchbearer, guiding you through the foggy maze of the city. In the Victorian era, street lamps were rare and many streets were plunged into darkness after sunset. To help the wealthy navigate these shadowy paths, there was a special job. The link boy. Young boys would carry burning torches or even link arms to form a human chain, lighting the way for those with money to spare. They stood out against the dark backdrop, small flames dancing in the mist, but being a link boy was dangerous. The streets were dark and full of dangers and many young torchbearers vanished into the fog, never to return. 4. Match sellers. Ever wondered how people bought matches in the days before they were sold in shops? Enter the match seller, an entrepreneur of the streets who brought fire and light to every corner. They carried their wares in baskets or on their backs, ready to strike a match for every customer. But being a match seller wasn't easy. The competition was fierce, and many sold their matches on credit, hoping to collect the money later. It was a risky business, but necessary in a time when light was needed and money was scarce. 5. Water carriers. In the days before modern plumbing, water was a precious commodity. People relied on water carriers to bring fresh water to their homes. These men carried heavy jugs or barrels through the streets, delivering life-giving liquid to those who needed it most. It was hard, tiring work, but essential for the health of the community. Now it's time to continue our journey through time. Please click the link on screen to watch part 2 of this unforgettable journey. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an adventure. And here's a special message for my supporters. Your support means the world to me. Thank you for being a part of this incredible community. Now let's keep exploring the past together. Did you ever wonder how people made money in Victorian times? Here are 9 of the most unbelievable jobs from history's muddiest era. Number 4. Crossing sweepers. The roads were muddy, filled with horse waste. People would often wear their finest clothes to show off, but that meant their fancy boots would get dirty, and no one wanted that. So these kids swept a clean path across the street so wealthy ladies wouldn't dirty their boots. For a few pennies they'd clear the way, and hope someone noticed. 5. Rat catchers. London was crawling with rats. These men, and sometimes brave boys, hunted them down, using dogs, ferrets, and in some wild cases, their bare hands. They'd enter the sewers and make their way through the tunnels to find the largest nests. They'd catch as many rats as they could, collecting their pelts as proof. Some even bit rats to death to prove their skill. It was a dirty job, but someone had to do it. 6. Resurrectionists. Hospitals needed bodies to study, but people wouldn't donate. So grave robbers, resurrectionists, dug up the freshly buried and sold the corpses to doctors. It was illegal, it was dark, but it happened. Sometimes the resurrectionists would only take the body if the family had put up a headstone, meaning they robbed the graves of the rich and famous. One man even made a fortune selling the bodies of young women, which were apparently in high demand. That man was eventually caught, but not before he made enough money to live a life of luxury. 7. Toshers. Men who entered the city's sewer system, crawling through filth to find lost coins, trinkets, or anything valuable. These men were known as They lived in darkness, surrounded by disease, but they knew those tunnels better than the streets above. They'd search for hours, sometimes days, until they found something worth bringing back to the surface. Once they found a pocket watch, they sold it for £10. That was a good day's work, considering the average salary at the time was about £2 a week. 8. Chimney sweeps. Small boys, forced to climb inside narrow chimneys to scrub away soot. They'd crawl on their hands and knees, coughing black smoke, until they reached the top of the chimney. Sometimes they'd get stuck, and that's when the adults would pull them out, covered in soot from head to toe. Many died young, their lungs destroyed from breathing in the smoke. But those that lived could earn enough money to become chimney sweep bosses, owning the ladders and hiring the boys to do the dirty work. 9. Leech collectors. During the Victorian era, doctors used leeches to treat all sorts of ailments, from headaches to hangovers. So these barefoot swamp sloggers had a steady clientele. They waded into murky waters and let leeches cling to their legs. Then they pulled them off and sold them to the nearest doctor. Some leech collectors kept their charges alive, keeping them in jars filled with pond water. They'd then sort through them, picking out the fattest, healthiest leeches and selling them for top dollar. It was painful, dangerous, and slow, but it paid. Now, it's your turn. What would you do for a few pennies? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more historical tales. Alright, here are some of the most extraordinary jobs that people had in the olden times. Part 2, coming right up. Number 10, pure finders. Perhaps the most shocking. These people walked the streets collecting dog poop. Yes, you heard that right. Tanners used it to soften leather. They gathered it in buckets and delivered it to factories. The name of this job, Pure Finder No. 9. Windows. Ever sat by a window and breathed a sigh of relief as the fresh air filled your lungs? Or someone had to clean those windows for those breaths to feel, oh, so sweet. Enter the window snuffer, a profession that literally meant cleaning windows. But wait, there's a twist. These folks didn't use fancy equipment. No, they did it all with a long pole and a red-hot musket ball. They'd heat up the musket balls, stick them on the end of the pole, and then proceed to literally blow out the window. The hot musket ball would melt the grime and dirt, which they would then collect with a sponge on another part of the pole. Talk about a risky profession, no. 8. Chimney sweep. Ah, chimneys, the unsung heroes of our homes, keeping us warm and cozy during the chilly winters. But let's face it, they're also a pain in the neck, or should I say, a pain in the lungs. You see, chimneys collect a lot of soot and grime, and if not cleaned regularly, they can pose a serious health hazard. That's where the chimney sweep comes in. These brave souls would crawl through the cramped, dark spaces of chimneys, armed with nothing but a brush and a bag. Their job was to remove the buildup and ensure that the chimney was clear for the winter season. Now, imagine the soot covering your entire body, making you look like you just emerged from a coal mine. Talk about a messy job. Number 7, rat catcher. Ever had a rat infestation in your house? You know how terrifying and frustrating it can be. But back in the olden times, dealing with rodents was a full-time job for these fearless individuals. Armed with traps and a whole lot of courage, they'd enter the infested houses and set up shop. Their goal, to capture as many rats as possible. And believe me, it wasn't for the faint of heart. These vermin were no small task to handle, but our rat catchers persevered, ensuring that the rodent population didn't get out of hand. Number 6, night soil man. Let's take a journey back in time to a period when plumbing was a luxury and sanitation, well, non-existent. Enter the night soil man, also known as the night soil cartman. This was the person who would empty your chamber pot. Yes, you heard that right. Chamber pots, for those not familiar, were basically the toilets of the time. They'd stand by your bedside in the middle of the night while you did your business. Once filled, they would take it away and dump it out in the street. Not exactly a glamorous job, but someone had to do it, and these brave souls did it without a second thought. Number 5. Cobbler. Back in the olden times, shoes weren't just a fashion statement. They were a necessity for survival, and who better to mend those worn-out shoes than a cobbler? Cobblers were the shoe repairmen of the time, and their skills were highly sought after. They'd work in small shops, fixing everything from sandals to boots. And let's not forget about the smell. Imagine working in a place filled with old shoes and leather. Yikes. No. 4. Barber. Want to look sharp? Get a haircut. Easy, right? Well, try being a barber in the olden times. Not only were they expected to give you a decent haircut, they also had to remove those pesky ingrown hairs and cure your baldness. Yes, you heard that right. Curing baldness. Using a special concoction of herbs and oils, they'd attempt to restore your hair back to its former glory. Good luck with that. No. 3. Matchstick maker. Remember those old-fashioned wooden matchsticks? Well, they weren't just made by a magical matchstick fairy. No, they were crafted by skilled matchstick makers. These individuals would take simple materials like wood and sulfur and turn them into the tools that started so many fires. That's right. They created the very thing that allowed people to cook their food and stay warm in the winter. No. 2. Night watchman. Walking alone at night could be dangerous. In the olden times, the streets were dark, the shadows were deep, and danger lurked around every corner. That's why the night watchman was a vital part of the community. Armed with a lantern and a loud whistle, they patrolled the streets, keeping a lookout for any potential threats. If you've ever strolled through a historic town at night, you might have seen one of these guys standing guard, making sure everyone stays safe. No. 1. Water carrier. Picture this, you're in the olden times and you need some water. You might think, hey, just go to the tap. But hold on, back then, indoor plumbing was a rare luxury, so someone had to deliver the water. Enter the water carrier, a profession as old as civilization itself. These men and women would carry water from the nearest water source, be it a well, a river or a rainwater collection system, to the homes and businesses that needed it. Often they'd make this trip on foot, carrying heavy containers on their heads or shoulders, and if you were lucky enough to have a water carrier, you might have had them visit your home every morning to fill up your containers. Thanks for joining us on this journey through time. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to like and share. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these fascinating professions. Which one piqued your interest? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss out on our latest videos. From all of us here, goodbye.